listen, between the one lady who's 26 with 6 kids and 1 on the way, and the other lady who is 32 with 7 kids living in a hotel and is actively pregnant, between those two and the people defending them, saying that the children look happy and they're fed and that's all that matters and everybody should mind their business and stop judging them. Listen, let's get one thing very clear. Let's get one thing very clear. When it comes to big families, and not just big families, but parenting in general, not only are parents unreliable narrators, parents don't get to decide whether they're good parents or not. You know who does get to decide? The children. Your child gets to decide whether or not you are a good parent. Aloha, beautiful humans. Welcome to my channel. If you are new here, welcome back if we've been locked in. My name is Sasha, and today we are talking about a lot of things. Child exploitation, the idea of good parenting, the fact that a lot of parents are not reliable narrators when it comes to the experience their child is having, and just overall, this new age digital panhandling and exploitation of children for a check, and how a lot of people, while you may be consuming child and family content thinking that it is harmless because they look so cute and happy, whether you know it or not, you are in part contributing to and enabling child exploitation. And we need to talk about it because in the age of social media, we have now seen the first generation of influencer kids grow up, and based on what they have to say about their childhood experiences, growing up with a parent who put their experiences on the internet without their consent, a lot of those kids are not as happy as you may be thinking. Right now, there are 2 women going viral on TikTok. One of them, like I said, is 26 with 6 children and she is pregnant. And the other one is 32 with 7 children living in a hotel, and I believe she is pregnant as well. Before we even get too far into this video, I do not believe in these situations, shame is necessary or helpful because the children are already here. You can't put them back in the mamas and they're here. What are we going to do about it? Shame is not necessary or helpful. However, what is also not helpful is putting the worst of your situation online and exploiting your children for a check. It is not fair to them, and they are not able to consent to that. While they are engaging in exploitative behavior when it comes to putting their children on the internet without their consent, what has been so trippy for me to see are the amount of people defending this behavior, saying the children look happy and that they're fed and that they're clothed. And if the fact that children are fed and clothed, that is the barest, if that means anything to you, I think we really need to reevaluate what parenting looks like for a lot of people, because a child being fed and clothed, a child who didn't ask to be here, by the way, a child that you actively made a choice to bring into this world, being fed and clothed is the absolute barest of minimums, and you do not get a trophy for that. It is so funny to see the amount of people who are saying, oh, they look happy, they're fed, they're clothed, that's all that matters, and essentially giving these parents trophies for doing the barest of minimums. I find that this rhetoric comes a lot from boomers and Gen Xers who like to poo-poo all over millennials for wanting participation trophies just for showing up, as if as millennials, as children, we were going out and buying those participation trophies for ourselves. As if it wasn't boomers and Gen Xers giving millennials participation trophies as kids. But it's so funny to me that as much as these generational cohorts, and it's not just like boomers and Gen Xers who are defending and co-signing this behavior, I've been seeing millennials engage in this behavior too, and Gen Z basically saying, you know, they're doing the best they can. And how do we know they're doing the best they can? You know, we don't know that. The one 26-year-old who is in this situation, she's not working, you know, and people are saying, oh, well, she's not asking for anything. She's just sharing her story. She's not asking for anything, but her Amazon wish list is posted on her profile. She has, I believe, amassed enough followers to get into the creator fund on TikTok. So now she will be profiting off of the exploitation off of those children, but she's not asking for anything. Okay, anyways, let me not get too off the track. I posted a video on TikTok about it. I actually posted several videos about it, but because the TikTok platform doesn't allow for a lot of nuance and people struggle with critical listening and thinking, I wanted to give this its own video on YouTube because I think this bears a lot of conversation. This idea that parents are doing the best that they can and the children looking happy is enough, because the parents in these situations are often unreliable narrators. As someone who grew up in a big family, I am so uninterested. I never care. I do not care to hear about the experience from the parents' perspective. I want to hear from those kids. And when it comes to that 26-year-old with 6 children who is going viral right now, I think she has one on the way. The one person I am interested in hearing from is her eldest daughter. That girl looks to be between the ages of 10 and 13. And that in and of itself is like deeply concerning, because that means the mom, she would have had to have been anywhere between 13 and 15, 16 when she conceived that girl. So there is a story right there, and I would definitely want to hear that story from the mom. But as far as what it is like to be a mother to 5, 6, 7, 8 children, the parents are not reliable narrators. And on top of them not being reliable narrators, they are getting on this app and sharing their story, sharing their experience exclusively for the purposes of exploiting those children, because there is nothing to be gleaned from the type of lifestyle this woman is living. She is not teaching anybody how to be a better parent. Her content is not how I meal prep for healthy, nutritious meals for 5, 6, 7, 8, whatever amount of children. And I don't necessarily believe shaming her is productive or even necessary. Like, the children are already here. You can't put them back in her. However, the people who are sending her items from her wish list, y'all are enabling the exploitation of those children. So while I would definitely be interested to hear from her eldest daughter, I do not need to hear her story now. As soon as she turns 18, I would love to hear from her what it was like growing up in that dynamic. And I honestly think that one of two things will happen. Either she will stay and repeat the entire cycle, or she will run. The first opportunity she gets, she will run fast and she will run far. And I firmly believe that she saw the attention that the resilient Jenkins were getting. She saw the bag that they were getting, and she decided to get in on the action as well. Y'all think you are helping. And while it is not necessary to shame her, it is also not necessary to aid and abet in the exploitation of those children by providing for them in a way their own mother is not able to. So yeah, like I said, the parents are not reliable narrators in this situation. And to say that the children are loved, to say that they're fed, to say that they're clothed, this is the barest of minimums. To say that they're even happy is a relative term. What does happiness mean? It's going to mean something different for every single child. And then on top of that, every single child, even children being raised in the same family, not only are they going to have different experiences, they are going to have a different set of parents, because no child gets the same set of parents. Me and my 7 siblings, same parents. My parents have been married. This year will make it 40 years. They've been married for 40 years. All of us were raised in the same household, raised by the same parents. But if you ask all of us, all 7 of us are going to have different thoughts, feelings, opinions about what it was like growing up, our experiences with our parents, and whether we were happy or not. On top of that, I would think that more people would have the emotional intelligence to know, especially full-blown adults, that just because somebody looks happy, they may not necessarily be happy, especially on camera, especially if these children are being trained to behave a certain way and show up a certain way. When you look at the Duggars, one might look at that show and think all of those children look happy, but those shows are productions, they're reality TV, and in many ways, social media and content is a production as well. So those children at this point are essentially employees. Their parents are not just their parents, they're their bosses in this content creation strategy. And of course, they're going to make it look good. I mean, the 26-year-old, I think she is going viral in part because her situation looks very bad. The house, as is my understanding, was very dirty, and so it looked a certain way. But she herself, I saw videos of her saying, well, from other people's pages, I saw people stitching her videos and green screening her videos. She has since been blocked. She will not make a dime off of me. I'm not I am not assisting in any exploitation of any children, so she's not going to make money off of me, so I'm not seeing a lot of her content. However, the content that I am coming across where people are green screening her videos, the house is dirty. Well, it's not a house. My understanding is it's an apartment. It's either a 2 or 3 bedroom apartment. So you have 6 children in a 6 children, one on the way, in a 2 or 3 bedroom apartment. You're not working. I think her child's father is still in the picture. I don't know if he works or not, but she's not working, while also knowing that nobody would be clicking on her content if those children were not a part of her content strategy. So you're putting on this production of what it is like for you as a mom of 6 children, filming these children in this dirty environment. Of course they're gonna sit there and look happy and look like they're making the best of that situation. But when the camera goes off, what are those children really feeling? And this is why I say the parents are not reliable narrators. It is only the children who will be able to tell you what and how they feel. The parents are seeing it from one perspective, but who is asking the children how they feel about what is going on? Nobody. I got a lot of comments on one of the videos that I posted, and one comment that stuck out to me as very curious was people saying that, oh, you're just mad because she's getting a bag. And it's like, man, why would I be mad at that? I'm on social media getting a bag. To be mad at someone on social media getting a bag would be hypocritical. There are millions of people who create content on social media, be they content creators, influencers, social media personalities, who are making a living in part or full-time off of content creation on social media. I have no issue with that. Get your money. I want everybody to get their money up, especially in this economy. However, my issue is when you exploit your children as a means of making money on social media without their consent. These children cannot consent to being on social media. Not only that, but think about this for a second. Like I said earlier, those children are employees. So she is depending on them for a check. Their presence in her videos depends on her check. Because let's be very clear, if it was just her, if she didn't show any of her kids, she didn't mention that she had 6 kids at all, she was just 26 and struggling, people would be like, scroll, I don't care. So she is very well aware of the fact that having 6 children, those children are solely responsible for any traction or attention she is getting on social media. Not only can they not consent to what is being put out there about them on the internet, they have very little privacy. Their peers, at least the ones who are school-aged, can see all of this posted online. And the saddest part about that is we don't even have to wait to see how this is going to possibly impact those children down the line. Like I said earlier, the first generation of influencer kids have already grown up, and they do not have positive things to say about their experience. Another thing that I saw in defense of these 2 women, and I'm saying 2 women because I honestly couldn't tell you their names. I think one of them her username is Miss Bunny. I don't know, Miss Bunny, Miss Benny. I'm not sure if that's her real name. And then the other person, I think that people have been referring to her as Peaches. I don't know if that's her real name or not. So that's just why I am referring to them as these women. I legit don't know their names, and I don't think we need to know their names. But another thing that I saw people saying was the only reason why they're getting smoke is because they're Black. And while that may be the case, race is a factor always, right? While that may be the case that there are some people who are only giving them this energy and they're getting all this smoke because they're Black, that ain't the case for me, okay? There was that woman a few months ago, the Resilient Jenkins. She was in the same situation. I think she's got 5 kids, maybe 4 kids. I'm not sure. All these people, they are so fertile. They be having all these kids. Anyways, the Resilient Jenkins, they got either 4 or 5 or 6 kids. I am not even sure at this moment. Last time I heard about them, they were being evicted from their 1-bedroom apartment. Yeah, they were being evicted from their 1-bedroom apartment, and her baby was like 2 or 3 weeks old, which is crazy. But anyways, a lot of people are saying, oh, the Resilient Family Jenkins lady, she didn't get all of this smoke, and it's because she was white. And we only talk this way about Black women and Black people who have big families. And immediately no, immediately no, immediately no. I have the same feelings about the Duggars. I have the same feeling about all of these TV families, all of these big families who are on TV exploiting the hell out of their children, the ballerina farm. I keep the same energy for all of them, because all of them are engaging in the same behaviors, exploiting their kids for a check. Those children cannot consent to what their parents are putting out there. Black, white, brown, the race, the ethnicity of the parents, it does not matter. The packaging does not matter. This normalized dysfunction for entertainment and profit their parents have introduced to the lives of those children for a check and making them employees at a young age, putting the worst of their situations on TV or social media, is exploitation. And by consuming this content or sending them money, you the viewer are enabling, aiding, and abetting in the exploitation of children. I feel this way in general about anyone whose children are a centerpiece of their social media strategy. There are some families who make it look very beautiful, who make it look fun, who make it look cute. If you want to consume that content, more power to you. You don't have to listen to a single thing that I say or anyone else has to say about it. You don't have to listen to the children who have grown up in that lifestyle and are speaking their experiences. Everybody has their entertainment and whatever. I'm not here to change your mind about it. I'm just here to frankly talk about an experience, because I think a lot of people are looking at it from the perspective of all of these people keep procreating and bringing these children into poverty, and that is absolutely one aspect of it. However, I'm looking at it from the perspective that these children are being exploited. An influencer and social media personality who I think actually does a really good job at popping her children into her content. We may see them, we may not. I think I've only ever I think her oldest daughter, Patricia Bright, by the way, is who I'm talking about. Love Patricia Bright. I think her oldest daughter is 7 or 8 years old. I've been following her for a little bit longer than that, so I kind of feel like ashamed, but I'm not good also with kids' ages. Like, I don't know how old her eldest is. I think her eldest may be 7 or 8 years old. I have only ever once seen those kids in anything that looked like a paid ad. And that was one time, and it was about their hair, and that was it. But for the most part, I don't see her children in her content. If there are 10 videos she has posted, her kids may make an appearance, and it's just in passing, or you hear them off onto the sidelines. Her children are not a central part of her content strategy. And I think she is one of the influencers and creators, at least that I follow, that has been in the game for a very long time, who I think has struck a very brilliant balance about staying fresh and staying relevant without becoming a mom and all of a sudden being a mom being her entire personality, at least being a mom being the sole part or a huge part of her content creation. I really admire and I respect her for that, because the mommy bag, that is a bag that she could be running to. It is an easy bag, given the fact that family channels, children channels, they have become so normalized. However, just because something is normalized or seen as acceptable in our society does not mean it is okay and that it is not dysfunctional in nature. And these family channels, these mommy blogger channels, these daddy blogger channels, these children channels, they are getting weird. There is no reason why adults should be consuming children's content. It is weird. And I do not care if it is happening in a shiny mansion, a comfy home in the suburbs, a 2-bedroom apartment, or a hotel room. It is all the same. If your children are a central part of your content strategy, it is child exploitation, period. I only hope at this point, since it doesn't seem like family channels are going away, it doesn't seem like these mommy, daddy blogger, children channels, they're not going anywhere. They are not going anywhere, unfortunately. But since they're here to stay, my hope is that the parents are at the very least setting aside money for those children. Or let me frame it in a different perspective, since there are some parents out there who feel entitled to spend money on behalf of their children as they see best, which is fine. You know, you're their parent, you have to buy them things, you have to financially provide for them. Cool. Since these children are working, however, since they are employees, whatever they would be making, whatever rates that they would be making in the industry, I hope that their parents, who are their employees, are setting aside money for them, because that money is a check that they have earned as employees, working for their parents, working for these channels, working because content creation is work. They are employees. We got child labor laws, but for what? Last September in California, Governor Newsom signed a bill updating financial protections for youth content creators, which is a start. Senate Bill 764 requires content creators that feature minors in at least 30% of their content to set aside 65% of a proportionate percentage of total gross earnings in a trust account the minor can access when they reach adulthood. This legislation mirrors the landmark financial protections that California established with the Coogan Act in the 1930s that went on to become the national standard to best safeguard the economic future of actors under the age of 18. And that is essentially what these children are. They are child actors. I really hope that this law goes into effect not just in California, but in all states and eventually becomes a federal law. It's not perfect, you know, Coogan protections only extend to child performers under contract, and considering parents don't need to draft contracts to record or post videos of their children in these posts are unfortunately not guaranteed access to the profits generated by their likeness and participation. So hopefully you just have to hope and pray that the parents in these situations are doing the right things by their kids. In this situation of the 26-year-old with 6 kids and the 32-year-old with 7 kids, both of them actively pregnant, the latter is the 32-year-old is living in a hotel. They're living in poverty. Like, let's be very honest here. Their situation is one that is of poverty. And so yes, they're making this money. Well, I know the 26-year-old, I don't know if the 32-year-old has reached enough followers to where she is able to join the creator fund on TikTok and make money, but they're living in poverty. Like, whatever money they're making is likely going to rent or food, or how are they going to save up for these children? And then if you are able to save up for these children, how are they able to split it equitably? And this is to even say that they're going to make anything and that this is a sustainable long-term strategy. TikTok is supposed to be going away at the end of the week. I actually low-key, I think Meta bought TikTok and they're just waiting to announce it because TikTok is starting to look like Meta. And I saw recently somebody posted a photo as a comment, and if you are on Instagram, you know that's something you've been able to do on Instagram for a minute, and Threads too. So I have a sneaky feeling that TikTok has already been sold, or at the very least they have entered some type of partnership with Meta, but time will tell. But in the event that that doesn't happen and TikTok is banned, what then? Now they've lost that sole source of income. And for the people who are saying, oh, well, at least they're trying, are they? Are they? I think the only thing they're trying and being successful at is bringing more life into this world. Other than that, I don't know if they're trying. You know, the mom of the 26-year-old with 6 kids, I've heard her say in somebody's green screen recording videos that she doesn't work, that she stays home with her kids. So what happens if the money she's making off of TikTok now, that goes away in less than a week? Is she trying? Like, I can understand and I can respect some of her children look very young, under the age of 5. So I understand that daycare is very expensive. Hell, I know some people who have opted to just leave the workforce altogether until their children are of school age, because they end up spending more money sending their kids to daycare than they would just staying home. So I can respect the fact that this woman wants to stay home with her kids if they're underneath the age of 5, especially if that saves money in the long run. Cool, I get it. However, there are some jobs that she could do at home, remote work, part-time. She could be a digital assistant, an e-assistant. That's something that she could do at home. Some call centers, you can work from home. You know, there are a lot of remote jobs out there that she can get that would help improve their financial situation. Posting an Amazon wish list or your GoFundMe or your Cash App or your Venmo or your Zelle, these are not sustainable strategies. And again, my intention is not to shame her for having children. I don't care how many children anybody has. It's none of my business. Are you able to provide for those children once they get here? That is the concern. Are you able to provide for those children without exploiting them? That is the concern. It's starting to become clear to me when you talk about these situations. A lot of people are only looking at it from a judging or a shaming perspective. It's not about that. You know, saying that, oh, the kids are happy, they're well fed, they have a roof over their head, they have clothes on their back. That's the bare minimum. What type of quality of life are these children having? when they are being exploited, when the worst of their situation is being put on the internet for billions to see without their consent, and the money that they're making, and the money being made off of their exploitation, they don't see a dime of it. What? How can, what do we even mean? What are we even talking about at that point? You know, it's like people are so intent on missing the point. And I think honestly, it comes down to when I see people react strongly like that, it makes me think that one of two things. Either they see themselves in those people, they experience the same situation, and they are feeling maybe residual guilt or defensiveness because they think they're being judged. You know, when we see somebody talking negatively about something and it mirrors our own experiences or something that we're doing, a lot of people will automatically jump to the defense of that situation, or they see nothing wrong with this behavior because it is normalized dysfunction, and they think it is okay for children to be living in these conditions, and they see nothing wrong with child exploitation because children being in content has become so normalized that we do not see it for what it actually is. Whatever the reason, those children are here and they deserve to be protected. They deserve to be provided for. And if people want to donate to the parents, that's your money. Do whatever you want with your money. However, crowdsourcing donations and purchases from your Amazon wish list is not a way to raise children. And I look at my parents being raised in a big family. Something somebody said, they were just like, just because you grew up in poverty doesn't mean these kids are growing up in poverty. And it's just like, who said that? Like, what? Like, when I look at my parents and how they raised us and their financial situation, baby, it never gave poverty. My parents sent 5 children to private school, okay? People think concern is projecting your own situation, but poverty was never my story. Both of my parents worked, always worked, sometimes multiple jobs to keep a roof over our head, because that was the bare minimum of them as parents, to provide for the 7 children they brought into this world, and provide they did. Thank God, poverty was never my story. My parents never allowed it to happen, and I am so grateful for that. You know, our education was so important to them and so much of a priority for them that private school, no brainer, paid for that, helped me pay for college. You know, just because somebody is speaking about something and it may not necessarily be glowing does not mean they are projecting from a place of negativity or their own trauma. Poverty was not a part of my story coming from a big family. And when you look at other big families, that may not necessarily be their story either. But when children from big families speak about their experiences and how they may not have wanted to replicate that experience, it doesn't always only have to do with the financial situation. And I talked about this more in my video I posted about what it is like growing up in a big family. Never once did I mention money, because it was not about money. There were other challenges that I experienced growing up in a big family, and that was challenging and frustrating enough at times growing up. I cannot even imagine how much worse it could have or would have been if we were poor. Like, wow. When it comes to big families, and when it comes to any family, when you ask the parents what their perspective was, how their child felt about their upbringing, the parent's perspective is always going to be different than the child's perspective, because parents are not reliable narrators, and they are not reliable narrators because they are seeing it from their perspective, but the children are the ones living it. And the person who is having the lived experience is the person who is best able to tell you about their situation. This is in part why I am beyond uninterested in hearing what the parents of these situations have to say. They are not reliable narrators. It is the children who are being exploited that will be the ones most impacted by it. We don't even have to wait for the children of these influencers or people on social media who are exploiting their children in the name of the check. We don't even have to wait for them to grow up to see the impact it has on these children. The first generation of influencer children have grown up, and they are absolutely sharing their stories. This one girl, Cam Barrett, her mother was a social media influencer, and she talks in length in this article. I'll link it in the comments. She talks at length about how her mother exploiting all of her childhood experiences without her consent, even her first period. She talks at length about how that impacted her. Speaking of the exploitation, while people are focused on the fact that the kids look happy and loved and fed, that woman, that man, because there's a man in the home as well. So these parents, these social media influencers who use their who use their children as content, they are making money off of their children. But are they setting aside and saving money for those children? They are getting a check off of those children. Those children are their employees. Their employees are being exploited for a lifestyle, but are those parents, are their bosses, are they setting aside money for those children? Because they absolutely earned every single penny that they're making their parents. These children are being exploited. And while I understand that children will find anything to bully one another about, these children do not even have privacy in their homes. Their parents, in the name of a check, because I don't believe this woman is working. So, out of all of the jobs that she could do, even if she didn't want to leave the home, she wanted to be a stay at home wife, or I don't know if she's a wife. So she wanted to be a stay-at-home mom and a working mom. There are jobs that she could get working in the home to improve their financial situation. But what does she do instead? Turn on a camera, exploit the hell out of their terrible living situation, exploit her children because people are only clicking for those children. If she was just 26 with a man at home and struggling, nobody would be clicking on her content. But because those kids have now become a part of her content strategy and she is exploiting those kids for a check, that is the only reason why people are watching. That is not only exploitation, what she is doing is deeply inconsiderate of her children, especially the ones who are school age. They have no privacy or little privacy in their home. And now their mother is inviting billions of people into their home and showing the worst of their situation. I really and truly feel for those kids. I'm sorry, I do not believe you get points for doing the barest of minimums when it comes to the children you chose willingly to bring into this world. Because parenting, becoming a parent, is not a requirement. It is a choice. So for most people anyways, it is a choice. So if you are choosing to enter parenthood, then you do not get brownie points for doing the bare minimum. You do not get brownie points. I'm sorry, you do not get brownie points for keeping a roof over your child's head, for keeping clothes on their back, for keeping food on the table, for providing for them financially. That is what you are supposed to be doing. Yeah, and because parents are unreliable narrators, a lot of parents don't even know how their children feel about how they were raised or their upbringing until they enter the age of adulthood and they're able to talk for themselves, or maybe they finally have a level of freedom and they are not dependent on their parents and they can share how they genuinely feel. Because that's another thing that I don't know if people haven't thought of, the fact that of course those children love her and they look happy. They have to depend on her. And that's one of the beautiful parts about social media. People can get online and share their experiences. And now you have people, especially people from big families or who are children of influencers or social media personalities, they're able to share their experiences. Some parents will say, oh, I did the best that I could. And yes, you may have done the best that you could, but the best that you could do, it was not enough. And that's something that you have to contend with. And for these people who are now speaking out about what their upbringing was like, we are not responsible for what happened to us as children, but we are responsible for how we heal as adults. And when I look back on so many of the things that frustrated me and that were challenges growing up in a big family, I have healed from those things. And so I don't really look at my parents, I don't really look at my upbringing as something that was traumatic and awful and that I would run from. Would I myself have 7 children? Absolutely not. If I was to ever have kids, I would be team one and done, period. However, so many people have simmering resentments from their upbringing, and what makes it harder to get over it and heal and move past it is when their parents can't even acknowledge that they did something that hurt their child. So many parents can't acknowledge how their child felt. Their child's experiences cannot validate their child because they can't see past their ego. They can't see past, I did the best that I could. And that's not fair. We're not responsible for the things that happen to us as children. However, we are responsible for our healing. So yes, absolutely, things that happen to us in our childhood can absolutely impact and do impact and shape us in so many ways. However, I also don't think it's productive years after the fact to punch down on the parents for ruining your childhood when you have now been alive more years than you were a child. I do, however, think it's fair that if you don't feel your parent was a good parent, that is a fair and valid feeling. And if they can't even take accountability for the things that they did or said that hurt you as a child or in your upbringing or things that they did wrong, I also understand how challenging it is for a lot of people to heal and move past that, especially if these are things that profoundly and deeply impacted you and your parents don't even acknowledge or take a single shred of accountability or responsibility for that. And I, in part, think that is why so many people get defensive when people talk about their upbringing, when they talk about their childhood and say their parents did the best that they could and try to tell kids to shut up and stop complaining because they themselves feel guilt about something that they may have said or done to harm their child and they're not taking accountability for. So what do we do now? You know, the kids are here. They're being exploited. What do you do about it? Stop engaging in the exploitation of children. Stop consuming this content. Stop liking it. Stop following it. At least minimize your viewing of it. While it's easy to look at the woman who is 26 with 6 kids and the woman who is 32 with 7 children living in a hotel, while it is easy to look at this as a situation of poverty and neglect, which is absolutely what those situations are of, the bigger overarching theme at hand is A, those children are being exploited, and B, the parents are not reliable narrators. Parents are never reliable narrators. And when it comes to whether someone is doing the best that they can and whether they are or are not a good parent, that is not for the parent to decide. It is only for the children to decide. If you want to know if somebody is a good parent, don't look at their actions. Don't look at what they're doing or even what they're not doing. Ask their kids. Better yet, ask their grown kids. Drop them in the comments. Let me know your thoughts. Have you come across either of these people on social media? What do you think about consuming content with children in it? I genuinely want to know, because while I think this is a level of normalized dysfunction, we have normalized a lot of things now that we just can't even see it for the abnormality that it is. And we may not even realize that we are engaging in child exploitation by doing something as simple as watching a reel or a TikTok video. So drop down in the comments. Let me know your thoughts. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and until next time, peace out.